Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Dave and Fraz Sports Talk Show. I'm Davis Gregory here with Aaron Frazier for episode 7. And today's episode, it's actually the first time we're going to talk about college basketball, just basketball in general. We talked about football for the past 2 weeks, but this week we're getting into college basketball for the first time, and we're going to be reviewing the top 5 teams in the nation. So let's go ahead and get right into it with the number 1 spot, the Duke Blue Devils, who are 10-0. They've beaten 2 ranked teams. They've beaten Florida, who ranks number 5, but is probably not going to stay at number 5 after losing to Florida State. And they beat number 3 Michigan State, which was a big win. And the Blue Devil Big Three is really the thing that I think could really help Duke maybe even win the national championship this year come March. Marvin Bagley, 22 points per game and 11 rebounds a game. That ranks him first in the ACC, which is just incredible in both of those stats. Also, Grayson Allen and Trayvon Duval are excellent in the backcourt for the Blue Devils, and really Duke's going to have a good season with these 3 players on the court.
Yeah, Davis, and it was really hard to gauge, when we would do this type of episode because you have to give it some time in college basketball to really see if the teams really stand out and where they're ranked. But Duke has really held their ground as they had a tough schedule starting off, as we talked about, 5th-ranked Florida. They got blown out of the water against Florida State. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And then 3rd-ranked Michigan State. Both key wins for Duke to really solidify themselves as the number 1 team in the nation. And I do feel that a 10-0 team in the ACC, and as you're talking about the Blue Devil Big Three, they're just a tough team to stop, and I do think they're the best team in the nation.
Definitely. Now, you've got the number 2 team in the nation.
Yeah, and Kansas. I really like Kansas at number 2. They're 7-0. They've played Syracuse, which isn't a ranked team, but they're still a very prestigious program. And they've played Kentucky, which is a big win, who's ranked 8th right now. And they beat them 65-61. But the thing I really like about Kansas is that they have a lot of returning players. And I love Devontae Freeman. Or no,
Devontae Freeman.
Not Devontae Freeman.
Graham.
Devontae Graham. Sorry, but Devontae Graham, you've seen the last 2 weeks, he's put up 35 points, and this Kansas team, one of the most efficient teams offensively in the whole nation, they're just a very hard team to stop.
Definitely at that number 2 spot, Kansas could make a huge impact come March as well as Duke. Now number 3, the Michigan State Spartans, who have 1 loss, of course, to the Duke Blue Devils, and they have arguably one of the best players in college basketball in Miles Bridges. Bridges is averaging 14 points a game and 6 rebounds a game, nearly identical to another one of his teammates, Nick Ward, who is playing 18 minutes a game and scoring 14 points a game. That's absolutely incredible.
He's been insane.
And Michigan State has played up against 3 top 11 teams, They've beaten number 11, North Carolina, and number 9, Notre Dame, but of course they lost to Duke. Michigan State with Miles Bridges and Nick Ward, they could be a really, really fun team to watch.
Yeah, and now I'm going to switch gears to Villanova because we all know what Michigan State can do. But Villanova, Tennessee's played them this year. They lost by 9. Villanova's still a very strong team, number 4. And what really I liked about Villanova was they typically haven't had a strong schedule in past years. So I thought last night they played 12th-ranked Gonzaga, and that's going to be a tough competition for them. But they won pretty handedly. They won 88-72 against Gonzaga on the road. So that was huge for them. And, they got a solid lineup. They got Mikal Bridges and Jalen Brunson, both averaging 18 points a game. This whole lineup averages in the double digits, around 15 points a game, which is really what you need for a team chemistry team like they have, and they're all sophomores and juniors. And I really think with the experience that they've had in the past few years, they can make a big run. And what I really like about them is when they played Tennessee, we put them on the free throw line a lot, and you think maybe a team's going to miss a few. They went 29 from 31 from the three-point line, and they're 78 to 80% overall from that starting 5 lineup. So it's just a very impressive team.
Definitely, and Tennessee had them in that first half, and Villanova just started off very strong coming out of the second half. Now at number 5, as we mentioned a couple times in this episode, the Florida Gators, who will probably no longer remain in that number 5 spot as they were annihilated by Florida State, 83-66. Florida State was unranked and came in there and just destroyed Florida.
And as you said, they came in there on the road team.
Mm-hmm. And especially in that rivalry game, Florida State was able to pull that one out. Just incredible job by Florida State, not only to beat Florida, but beat them by so much.
Yeah.
But the Gators have back-to-back losses, one against number 1 ranked Duke, but of course against Florida State. They've beaten number 12 and Gonzaga in overtime. They'll definitely fall out of the top 5. And I'm thinking either Wichita State or Kentucky takes their spot within that top 5. Jalen Hudson is the best player for the Gators, who averages around 20 points a game and shoots 54% from the field. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And he's the second in SEC scoring behind the freshman from Alabama, Colin Sexton.
Yeah.
And now we're going to move on to our favorite players to watch. I'll go first. My favorite player to watch so far, just from what he did in the Bahamas, the forward sophomore from Tennessee, Grant Williams, averages 15 points a game, 7 rebounds a game, and 3 assists. It's kind of a partially biased selection because I am a Tennessee basketball fan, but Williams has been a huge player for Tennessee this year. Grabbing rebounds, the work he's done in the post, he's just been an absolute force on the court. And again, as I said in the Bahamas, Williams had 22 points against Purdue, who was ranked number 18, and had 20 points against Villanova, who's now ranked number 4. So Grant Williams, excellent player in the post. I love watching him play.
Well, for me, Davis, I messed up his name the first time.
Devontae Freeman.
Devontae Freeman.
Is it Devontae Freeman?
It's Devontae Graham,
Oh,
actually.
Devontae
Graham is my favorite player to watch in college basketball right now. And I know he hasn't had, they've obviously played Kentucky and beaten them in Syracuse. He's had big games. But what impresses me a lot about him is he has had triple-doubles the past 2 games and averaged 35 points for both those games against Texas Southern and Toledo. And you might say those aren't big teams, but it really builds a team's confidence. And if you see the way that Kansas facilitates the ball does the ball move around the perimeter, and they shoot the ball so well from the perimeter, that's why they're the number 2 team in the nation. And I really think it all starts with Devontae Graham.
With him averaging 8 assists a game, that's actually put him in the top 5 in the nation with assists per game. Definitely a great player to watch in that Big 12 conference. Now we're going to go over to Andrew Cross with a quick update on the NBA.
Thanks, Davis. Today, I'm going to be talking about the NBA's most impressive team, the NBA's most disappointing team, and I'll be handing out some rookie grades so far. My most impressive team goes to the Boston Celtics. Their top-tier defense has them at 20-4 in the top of the Eastern Conference. Their 2 rookie forwards, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, have matured very, very quickly and are keeping them in a playoff hunt. The starting 5 for the Boston Celtics is averaging over 40 points a game without Gordon Hayward. That starting 5 is Marcus Morris, Kyrie Irving, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Al Horford. The most disappointing team goes to the Oklahoma City Thunder. There was much talk about the big 3 the Thunder had brought in over the offseason. A strong defense but a struggling offense, which is 21st in the league in points in the paint, has kept them below 500, and that's bad for the superstars that they have on that team. Finally, rookie grades. The A+ goes to Ben Simmons, who was taken number 1 overall in the 2016 draft. He's a great forward and looks like a young LeBron, averaging 18, 7, and 7. Jason Tatum gets an A- for the Boston Celtics, a great compliment to Kyrie, and he's only 19 years old. He's a 50% shooter from three-point range, which is number 1 among qualified players. He was taken number 3 overall in the 2017 draft. Dennis Smith Jr. of the Dallas Mavericks gets a B+. He's averaging 14 points a game, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists, and he doesn't turn the ball over much. He was taken number 9 overall. Lonzo Ball, he was taken number 2 overall in the 2017 draft. He's not shooting well, but his rebounding and assists have come up a lot since college, and he will become better on offense when the pressure subsides. And Markelle Fultz gets an F. He was averaging 6 points a game before he injured his shoulder, and he is out indefinitely. He was taken by the 76ers as the number 1 overall pick.